Hey, Steve, 5 minutes.
Hello, Steve. You don't know me, but I know you. You make bets for a living, but today you'll be making a bet to stay alive. You must wager everything you own on the NFL MVP, or never see the light of day again.
NFL MVP? I could actually probably make some money on that tour, or Mahomes.
Well, because of the way you acted, you only get two choices. Jimmy G or Mac Jones.
Why would you do that? That's horrible.
Two of the worst quarterbacks in the league, Mac Jones, Jimmy Garoppolo.
You have 30 seconds to decide between Jimmy or Mac, and then I'm coming for you.
What?
So put your best foot forward and make a choice.
What? What are you talking about? I can't decide between those two. They're the two worst quarterbacks in the league. But Jimmy Garoppolo and Mac Jones, this is horrible. How can I decide between these two? These are the worst quarterbacks. Oh, Jesse.
What the hell are you doing in here? We have a shoot in like 5 minutes.
Okay, I need your help. I need an MVP between Jimmy Garoppolo or Mac Jones. Please, give me an answer, please.
Steve, that's just Emerson. He's messing with you.
Huh? What the?
Yeah, good Sunday morning, everybody. Great to have you here. Welcome to the Sweat. I'm your host,
Academy Award. What an
Emerson.
opener.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice Samir behind the camera for his role.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, turn the camera
What are
around
you
so you
talking
get a
about?
shot of yourself.
That wasn't acting. I really did tie Steve up in a room and said, you got to pick between Jimmy G and Mac Jones for NFL MVP. Welcome to the Sweat, everybody. I am your host, Emerson Latzia, surrounded by Josh, Jules, and Steve, now free to roam about the cabin. We've got you covered here for the next 2 hours, part of the pregame power-up block here on DraftKings Network.
Love that.
And VSiN, that's right. So we're just 2 hours. After us comes the Lombardi line, and then Brett Musburger's countdown to kickoff will take you right up until 1 o'clock Eastern. So in the words of the great Mills Lane, yes, let's get it on. We got propped up. We got systems plays, so where's the win today? Steve will not be part of that
Thank
block
God.
because he
Only
is
one match today, Steve. Don't worry.
Fantastic.
Oh, really?
Only one.
And then
Watch
there's
out
some-
for that.
there's some rumors about snow in the Mile High. Can't wait to get you to break
that's
it down.
overstated. We'll get to that.
Also, some DFS price check, but let's get going with part one of our best bets, and we'll start with Vikings at the Packers here. Bukes, you're a free man now, so tell me which bet you really like in this game. Green Bay running a 3-game losing streak right now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this actually would have been a great game to grab the under if you had got this on the look-ahead line. This was sitting at 45.5. As of this morning, it's now at 41.5 at this point. So I don't really want to take a side on this one. I do like T.J. Hawkinson in this matchup, though, going over 55.5.
I feel like you've liked him a lot this season.
I have liked him a
Yeah.
lot, but especially with the loss of Justin Jefferson, like he's really become one of the top targets in this offense, though. Green Bay really hasn't faced a lot of teams that go heavy to the tight end position. Teams that do, that they face, Lions and Falcons, have all had a lot of success against this defense here. We saw Sam Laporta go for 56 yards on 4 catches. Jonnu Smith, 47 yards on 4 catches. 2 games now without Justin Jefferson. Hawkinson has logged 136 yards on 17 catches. He's going to continue to do well in this matchup against the Packers. Give me Hawkinson over his yards today.
Yeah, that under, man. The Vikings haven't scored more than 22 points in their last 4 games. Josh, what are you looking at here?
Yeah, to Steve's point, I think the under looks pretty sharp, but just the question now has it moved too much to where you're no longer comfortable playing it? Opened again, 43.5, 44. It's down to 41.5. One angle here, though, is when you see the total fall at least one or at least a half point, take the under. That's 44 and 23, 66% this year. So that would match to the under. Maybe you could tease it up if you want to get a couple extra points there. But I'm looking toward the Green Bay Packers in this one, guys. The early move was toward Minnesota. You open at some shops like a pick'em, even like a short, Green Bay -1. It flipped at one point to Minnesota -1.5. But over the last 24 hours, there's been a lot of buyback on Green Bay. It's back down to a 1-point spread, and it looks really fishy to me because you have, one team that's lost 3 straight with Green Bay. You have one team that's actually playing pretty well, Minnesota, having won 3 of 4. Yet this is only a 1-point spread. 79% of bets are on the Vikings. I think there's an opportunity to grab the Packers. It's also a rest first tired, where it was a short week there for the Vikings playing on Monday night. I'll go Packers.
Jules, Vikings 3-3-1 against the spread. Packers 3-3 ATS. So really, there isn't a clear indicator here, is there?
Not really, and I think kind of like Josh put it, this is a spot where, you want to zig when everybody zags, and I would look at the Packers, but as Samir makes an appearance on the show, as we all asked for.
Samir.
So I just can't put my faith in the Packers at this point, though. So I'm passing on a side on the game, and I'm going to a prop. Steve every week likes Hawkinson. I like Jordan Addison, and he's coming off that huge game on Monday Night Football. He's the guy that you plug in for Justin Jefferson in this offense. So he went for 7 grabs, 2 touchdowns, well over 100 yards, $123 last week. I think Jordan Addison at just 58.5 yards is a decent look on the over.
All right, what about Rams at Cowboys here, gentlemen? Jules, I'll start with you. Rams, I feel like, can make this a game because the Cowboys simply cannot cover either Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua well.
Yeah, they're going to have some troubles with the matchups with the wide receivers, but Dallas is off a bye, so they should be well prepped for this one, whereas the Rams have been playing. The Rams had a tough one against the Steelers. Is it a bounce-back spot? Sure, but I just feel Dallas is going to be more prepared for this one. If they get the lead, they should be able to run the ball well. I would lean to Dallas. I'm not going to lay the points with them. If you are making a 6-point teaser this week, I do think Dallas, getting them down to just a pick, is a pretty solid teaser leg, would be my thoughts on this game.
Total could be somewhere to target potentially. Here's Steve, as the under is a combined 8 and 5 between these teams this season.
That's exactly where I'm going here. I do like the under in this game, under 45.5. Like you mentioned here, the Rams are only 2 and 5 to the over, while Dallas is 3 and 3, which is quite incredible when you think about how many points this offense hung in the early part of the season against some of those inept offenses that they played against. But I feel like that's the perception we still have about this Dallas team, is that there's still like this high-flying offense and everything is great when it comes to Dallas, when in reality, they've scored a combined 30 points over the last 2 games that they've played against the 49ers and the Chargers. They're now facing a Rams defense that I think has been playing a lot better than a lot of people expected. Like, I remember doing the segment with Julian before the season began, and we both agreed that this could be one of the worst defenses in the league. This Rams defense has actually been better than expected. So going up against this this Dallas offense, I think is going to be something that's going to be a challenge here. I do think Dallas is going to be prepared. I think they're going to really overwhelm the Rams offensive line, and that's a big reason why I like the under in this one, because I think the points are going to be hard to come by. But yeah, I think the under is the play in this one.
All right, we have 2 struggling teams meeting with the Saints at the Colts. What do we expect? Minshew magic today?
Oh, please.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go New Orleans, Emerson. I like the Saints in this spot. Right off the bat, we've seen some good sharp line movement. This was kind of a pick-em game, a short -1 New Orleans. Now you're up to New Orleans -2, so the movement is going toward the Saints in this spot. Really good bet split as well. Saints are only getting 45% of bets, but 64% of the money. So public's actually saying, hey, 2 teams struggling, might as well take the Colts at home getting some points. Yet this line is going toward the Saints. You look at road favorites. They're 27 and 17 straight up this season, 61%. Also non-conference favorites. 2 teams, 2 different conferences don't really match up very well, or don't match up a lot, so that lack of familiarity benefits the better team. Also a rest advantage. This was Saints who played on Thursday versus Colts on Sunday. I'm not going to lay the 2 though. On the off chance you win by 1, odds makers are projecting a tight game here. I'll go money line -130. Saints, let's get a win.
All right, Jules. Maybe targeting someone turning the football over could be the way to go here, because the Colts have turned the football over 4 times in each of the past 2 weeks.
And I'm not one to really trust Derek Carr. I put my faith in him against your Jags. Didn't work out for me.
That's right, partner.
This spot is Saints. Josh is correct about that. I can't trust the Saints. I can't trust Derek Carr.
Okay.
I don't like him screaming at his teammates for balls he's throwing out of bounds.
Yeah.
I'll save us some time. I'll pass on this game. Keep it moving.
All right, Steve, save us some time here with Patriots at Dolphins.
Oh,
and one
yeah,
of your
this is an
favorite
easy one.
quarterbacks of all time, Mac Jones.
Yeah, give me Miami at 9.5. I think is the line is still
8.5.
there.
Down
It's at
8.5,
8.5,
Steve.
even better.
Sharp
Give me
foot in the
Miami at
Pats,
8.5.
baby.
No, don't even start with this crap. Do not start with this crap again about the Sharks on the
It
Patriots.
worked last week. And
Okay, it worked last week for the first time
No, I
this
know.
season.
It's like everyone, if you keep saying the Pats are sharp and bet them every week, eventually it's going to hit.
Don't
I
care.
agree with you. I think we're going back
Don't
the other
care.
way
Well,
now.
Tell me why Miami covers.
Okay, I'll tell you why. First of all, as a favorite, Miami's 4-0 against the spread by an average of just under 15 points. Now, this number is going to be massive because of how much they beat Denver by early this year by 44 points. But in the other 3 games that they covered, -1.5 against New England, they won that by 7. Giants, 12.5-point favorites, they won by 15. 14 points versus Carolina, they won by 21. How vastly different does the New England defense look in this game compared to how they looked in the first game that they played this season? No Christian Gonzalez, no Marcus Jones, no Matthew Judon. Those are 3 massive players not on defense this time around against the Dolphins. They smash the Patriots in this game by 8.5, 9.5. Give me 10.5. I don't care. Miami is blowing out the Patriots today.
Miami 3-0 ATS at home. They have won those games by an average of 28.7 points per game. Before we go to our first break, Texans at the Panthers, a game featuring the first 2 picks in the draft. Josh, what are you targeting here?
I'm going to go money line Houston, but I'm not going to argue with anyone who's talking Carolina plus 3.5. I think the value play is probably the points with Carolina. My angle to like Houston, though, a little bit of line movement, Emerson. They open -3. They're up to -3.5. Here's a system for you. Road favorites off a bye. There's 64 and 36 ATS, 64% since 2005. I'm money lining the Houston Texans today.
Love it. Love it. Anything quickly, Jules?
Panthers team total over 20.5.
Yeah.
You're getting plus money on that. New offense out of the bye. I think Bryce Young's going to put up some points.
All right, more coming up here on the Sweat. We'll see which props that you gentlemen like when the pregame power-up continues.
You're watching DraftKings Network's Sunday pregame power-up.
Welcome back to the Sweat, everybody. We're just kicking off our pregame power-up on DraftKings Network and VSiN. A full 5 hours of pregame talk, getting you set for all the NFL action in today's betting slate around the world of sports. So following us, Lombardi Line from 10 to high noon, then Brett Musburger's countdown to kickoff, leading right into the 1 o'clock slate of games. So let's keep it rolling right meow with a little propped up. So your favorite prop bets around the NFL today here, guys. Believe it or not, the most profitable quarterback on their passing yards prop isn't Tua. It's not Patrick Mahomes. It's a dude named Desmond freaking Ritter.
Yeah, I had to go back and confirm that. But yeah.
Right?
That's true.
Listen, we
That's
talked
true.
about it yesterday here on the show with Marco. 6-1 to the over this year. We're talking Ritter. Will he go over his prop this week, Josh?
So I think he may. I'm just worried a little bit about the fact that maybe odds makers are adjusting to Ritter's prop at this point because it's been pretty low. I mean, you look at his prop, it's like, 210, 212 compared to other quarterbacks like Mahomes that are, 285. So I'm a little worried that because and anytime you see something cash at a high rate, going 6-1, again, people who've been playing this, I know it's not the most popular prop bet in the world, but whoever's been playing this, they've been cashing. So we did see an adjustment, Emerson. One thing I like to look toward is, we do our show rundown.
Yep.
What's the number we use and what is it now? It's actually gone up over the last couple of days. It was 216.5. Now it's 219.5.
Yep.
Tennessee is 22nd in passing yards allowed per game, 237. So I'd either go over or nothing, but I am wary of the fact that maybe it's becoming kind of a trendy play.
He's averaging 232.9 passing yards per game this season, Bukes.
Yeah, so here's where it gets difficult. Like, if there's a game that I feel like I have the least confident in, it's this Falcons-Tennessee game. There's a number of reasons for that. Like, you look at the Tennessee Titans side, no Ryan Tannehill, right? So now it's, what are they going to be doing at quarterback? Well, they're saying Will Levis is going to be in the mix, Malik Willis is going to be in the mix. It's really hard to nail down what Tennessee's game plan is going to be here. You can throw against this team. I mean, opposing quarterbacks are averaging 257 passing yards per game, 71% completion percentage. That's very, very high. But that being said, how much are they going to need to throw in this game? Because Atlanta likes to run the ball to begin with, regardless of what you saw last week with Bijan Robinson and that whole disaster we got out of the backfield there. They're running the ball at one of the highest rates in the league, 47% of the time. They only trail the Eagles, Ravens, and 49ers in that realm. I don't know if they're going to need Desmond Ritter to throw the ball much in this game if they get up big. I know the spread is only 2.5, but there's just a lot of anomalies in this game that I'm not liking in this one, so I'm going to side with the under in this one.
Okay.
But matchup-wise, like, that is something that he should succeed. Just, I don't like how the game script could go in this one.
Yeah, and if they decide to run the hell out of the football and possibly use Bijan Robinson this week, we'll talk about that later coming up in our prop or price segment. Right now, though, A.J. Brown has been making bettors money who bet his over on his receptions prop 5.5 this week. So he's gone over that mark. 6 of 7 games, returning 68.2% on investment on those bets. Another win for bettors this week, Steve, incoming. 6 or more catches. Do you see it?
I like how to make sure that there wasn't a big trade that the Eagles made, that they got another wide receiver one in this offense. Like, this is
Julio
so-
Jones
they
doesn't do
only
it
make
for
big,
them.
Julio Jones. Yeah,
I was
you're
going to
right.
say, they only
That's
make
it.
big trades anyway with the Titans.
But this number is just so low. In the games that he's gone over this 5.5 mark, he's averaging 8 catches
He's a
per
machine.
game. When they faced Washington, earlier this season, absolutely decimated that secondary. 9 catches for 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. There isn't a matchup in coverage that you have to worry about for A.J. Brown to be in this game here. The only concern if this game gets out of hand, if they're absolutely just crushing the Commanders at this point, because in losses in the games that Washington has lost this year, they're losing by an average of 19 points. They kept that first game against the Eagles close, so it was only a 3-point win for the Eagles, so ideally we'd like something like that, but man, this 5.5 total, he has just been absolutely smashing that week in and week out.
He's caught under 6 receptions just once this season,
Yep.
Josh.
It's unbelievable. I like Washington +7 for the game here. We'll get to that later. I think this could be a tight one. But to Steve's point, if you look at just what A.J. Brown has done this season, let's just look at his last few games. And the targets as well. 10 catches for 137, 7 for 131, 6 for 127, 9 for 175, 9 for 131. And as Steve mentioned, one of those we just mentioned was against Washington. We had 13 targets, 9 catches for 175 yards. So I would play this prop. Obviously, again, you're wary of something that is cashing at a high rate, being a little bit overinflated by the books. But look, pay attention to the juice. Over 5.5 catches for Brown is -150. 88.5 receiving yards, -115. Washington is 27th in the NFL in passing yards allowed, 248 a game. I would go over in both of those for Smith, and I would for Brown, I'd mention too, Devonta Smith. Over 49.5 pass receiving yards, Emerson. Can he get you 50? That's juiced up minus 145. Maybe that's a play to go to Smith if you're wary of maybe an inflated number with Brown.
Yeah, and a big report coming out about the Commanders last night was that their trade deadline plan, which the trade deadline is on Tuesday, that's going to hinge on their performance today against the Eagles. So likely, hey, they may be.
We're going to be sellers.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. Favorite quarterback prop here on the slate today, Steve?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the game that Josh is taking on the money line. Texans, C.J. Stroud to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns. You're getting that at plus 110. I love this spot for him against Carolina. C.J. Stroud has been doing a lot of these passing touchdowns, and as well, he's gone over 1.5 in 4 of the 6 games that he's played so far for Houston. Going up against a Carolina defense that's already allowed 10 passing touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks on the year as well. And Carolina is really banged up defensively. They're missing a number of key defensive players coming into this game here in Week 8. And you look at what they're doing in the red zone as well. Their running backs have combined for 1 rushing touchdown on the year. They're in the red zone. They're throwing in the red zone, and they're trusting C.J. Stroud to do his thing. I think he threw his first interception. I think it was last week that Stroud threw his first interception, which is incredible for a rookie quarterback. But he has done so well in these scenarios. Should be able to pass the ball against Carolina, especially with all the guys that they're missing. Give me over 1.5 passing touchdowns for C.J. Stroud today.
Who has led the Texans to victories in 3 of their last 4 games, and they're coming off a bye here. Josh, who are you looking at in the quarterback props department today, dude?
I may surprise you here, Emerson. Tyson Bagent, the pride of Shepherd University.
Wow.
I like this angle to take him as over passing yards here. It's 199.5. Again, you very rarely get any QB with a prop for yardage under 200. But I think there's a reason to go over for this one. Now, he's only played 2 games. Got a win last week, obviously. He's thrown for 83 yards and 162. So on the one hand, it's like, hey, he's gone way under this number. Don't overthink it, just take the under. But it's juiced up a little bit to the over, and this game will be played in a dome. There's been a little bit of line movement actually in favor of Chicago. Some books were Chargers minus 9.5 down to 8.5. And the Chargers are the worst team in the NFL when it comes to defending the pass. They're ranked 32nd. They're giving up 310 yards per game. I think Bagent, with some experience, being in the system a little bit longer, now he's got a win under his belt. Can he throw for 200 yards against the worst pass defense in the NFL? I think that's doable. Give me over 199.5.
Hell of a story there with that kid. Favorite running back prop on the board, Bukes?
So sometimes, not in reality.
Okay.
You never want to be early to the party. In reality, like socially, you don't want to be
fashionably late?
Yeah, you want to be fashionably late.
I'm usually about 10, 15 minutes after it starts.
When it comes,
where's Emerson?
When it comes to betting
and then I kick the door down.
Jeez. When it comes to betting props, you want to be early to the party.
That's a good recommendation.
I like that.
Cam
good
Akers
stuff.
to go over 41.5 rushing and receiving yards in this game against in the Vikings game here against the Packers. I think the tides have officially shifted in that Vikings backfield. I think Akers is going now to be the RB1 over Alexander Madison. We kind of saw a hint of that last week where Akers had out-carried him 10-8 in that game. Now he's going up a very generous Packers run defense that's allowing over 4 yards per carry and 6.5 yards per reception. This feels like a very obtainable number for Akers if he is indeed the RB1 in this offense. And if last week is any indication, maybe even if he's not the top one here, he's definitely starting to feel like the 1B to Madison being the 1A in this offense. But against a defense that is very generous to opposing running backs, I think he goes over that number either through the air or on the ground to get a little bit of combination there.
Maybe this is the week the Vikings score their first rushing touchdown of the season, for crying out loud. The only team that doesn't have a rushing touchdown in the NFL. Josh, who's your running back du jour?
I'm going to go Isaiah Pacheco over 64.5 rushing yards. It's juiced up a little bit, over minus 125. I actually like Denver in this game, believe it or not. We'll get to that later. There's been some line movement toward the Denver Broncos. Everyone's hammering the Chiefs, yet this line is going to Denver. So I'll take the 7 there. But for terms of Pacheco, really it's the matchup. You look at Denver. They're ranked dead last in the NFL in rushing yards allowed per game. They're giving up 167 on the ground per game. And Emerson, there's no one even close to them. The next closest team is Carolina, giving up 144 rushing yards a game. So literally they're giving up more than 20 yards more than any other team in the NFL. I think this is great news if you want to back Pacheco in terms of his rushing prop. It's also, a little bit fishy here because if you look at Pacheco, he's gone under this number in 3 straight games. Yet, this is higher than his last 3 games, and it's being juiced up over. I think Pacheco runs the ball and hopefully runs it well and gets you 65 or more yards, I'm going over 64.5 Pacheco.
All right, guys, we got less than a minute to go on this block. Quickly, a wide receiver prop you're targeting.
Josh Downs, over 47.5 receiving yards. The Saints have been absolutely burned by slot receivers.
Yeah.
Cornerback Alontae Taylor, 56 times targeted, 37 receptions, 339 yards allowed. Give me Downs to go over his total today.
Who do you like, Josh?
Kendrick Bourne, over 45.5 receiving yards. It's
He's on the
minus
Patriots.
110.
Yeah.
He is on the Pats, but he's now Mac Jones's number one
Do you know
target,
who,
go-to
do you know
guy.
who's throwing him the football?
Mac Jones. He's going to cover that number today, Steve. I'm telling you, though. Mac Jones is going to cover. Miami 20th in passing yards allowed per game. Kendrick Bourne has 18 targets, actually, his last 2 games. I like Bourne to get you 46 or more receiving yards.
Obsessed with
I know. I hear there's a wide receiver you like on the Jaguars today. Maybe that will be part of our next block when we revisit some best bets in our next wave of 1 o'clock games. Travis Etienne, he's been a scoring machine this year. Welcome back to the Sweat, everybody. The first 2 hours of our 5-hour pregame power-up block here on DraftKings Network and VSiN. I'm Emerson Latzia, Josh, Steve, Jules back with me for part 2 of our best bets today. We'll start with America's team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, visiting the Steelers, baby. Each of these teams have been pretty solid to lean on, Steve, from a betting standpoint. So the Jags tied for a league best ATS record 5-2. Steelers 4-2 ATS. So what do you want to do here? What's your best bet?
Yeah, I have no problem backing the Jaguars in this one. I'm actually surprised this game is priced as close as it is, but I do like Calvin Ridley a lot in this game to go over 49.5 receiving yards. I know like a lot of people have been burned by him this year, especially after his explosion in week 1, but nobody wants to back him this point, but this is probably the best individual matchup he's had over the past few weeks. So you look at the matchups in coverage he's going to be going up against either Levi Wallace or Patrick Peterson. Both of these guys are allowing an average of over 14 yards per reception in coverage at this point. The Steelers alone have already allowed 4 separate receivers to go over 100 receiving yards in a game this season. So now we have Calvin Ridley in one of these type of matchups to go over 49.5 receiving yards. That feels awfully low for somebody who should have a lot of success in his matchups and coverage along the sidelines here in this game. So give me Ridley to go over 49.5.
Steve has me sold on Ridley and the Jaguars today. Josh, huh? What's system telling you?
So I don't want to be a wet blanket here.
Yeah,
There we go.
Here we go. Let's go
There we
Steelers,
go.
baby. I like the Steelers in this spot. Now, Emerson, if you asked me, on our production meeting on Wednesday who I liked, I would say this is pretty clear play toward the Jags. They open around a -1.5 road favorite. They got bet up to -2.5, but now they've become very popular, and the line's actually falling back toward the Steelers today, this morning, and a little bit of yesterday too. 2.5 got down now to 2. I see one book at 1.5. Jacksonville Jaguars in this spot, they're getting right now 67% of bets, yet the late movement is breaking Steelers. Here's my angle, though. Aside from the late move, Mike Tomlin. There are certain coaches that you love to back anytime they're a dog. To me, Tomlin is one of these guys. He's 4-1 ATS this year as a dog. He's 55-28 ATS, 66% in his career as a dog. And as a home dog, he's 17-5 against the spread, 77%. So I like the late movement. I'll go Steelers here. Emerson, if you want to save, protect yourself a bit, tease them 2 to 8, go through a couple.
Don't you worry about me, Bucko.
You can just win by 1.
Jules,
How about that?
that is true. Jules, total set at 41 currently on the DK Sportsbook. It is worth noting here that the under's 5-1 in Steelers games thus far this season.
Yeah, I'll take Tomlin as a home dog, honestly. I agree with Josh.
There we go.
I'm going to keep fading the Jags. I've already made this my brand. I'm not going to stop now. It has not been kind to me lately. It's kind to me in
Oh, that's smart. Something that's not been kind to you. You keep going back. Dude,
Yeah,
give up.
that's
You've
fine.
lost.
I backed them in London. That's where they do well. Eventually, this is going to catch up with them, so I'll just keep fading them and say that if I were to play this game, the Steelers would be the side.
right.
As I look at the DraftKings Sportsbook and the Patriots dropped to 8.
Ooh, Steve, you hear that?
Josh, I don't care.
Let's get down to 7.5.
I don't care,
Yeah.
Josh.
Miami
Yeah.
is winning by double digits for
Thank
all
you.
the reasons Steve said.
Alternate spread, 10.5 Miami.
All right, Eagles 7-point road favorites on the road division game at Washington. Bukes, what do you want to do?
I feel like this would be a spot to back the Eagles, but like I mentioned before, the Commanders did keep that game close the last time. I think you can use the Eagles as a really strong teaser like this week, getting them down to 1. You could even pair that with the Chiefs. I know Josh is going to babble about something about the Broncos later. But, getting basically the Chiefs and the Eagles down to 1, you can use that as a 6-point teaser for the week here. I think that's a strong one. And then also A.J. Brown. We talked about his reception number, how he's absolutely been crushing that. If you don't mind paying the -150 for the over on that one, you could do that, or even take like an alternate if you want. But I think teasing down the Eagles is definitely the play for this one.
All right, Josh, go ahead. Piss off Steve.
Give me Commanders +7 in this one. There was an early move toward the Eagles. They opened like -6, -6.5. They got up to 7. Once they got to that key number, there's been some resistance. You pretty much have seen this line stay at 7. Even some juice liability, like it may get back down to 6.5. That's something worth looking at before we get to kickoff here. But this is a big public play to the Eagles. They're getting 76% of bets. Remember, last week, guys, you had one of the best weeks of the year. I think it was the best week for contrarian bettors, for sports books. Teams getting over 70%. I think went like 0-7 ATS. But I like the spot to the Commanders. Steve mentioned this, but there was a really close game there back in week 4. It was an overtime matchup. It was barely Eagles won 34-31. second time around, it's always a good angle to back that divisional dog in that spot. Divisional dogs 56% ATS. Give me Commanders +7.
You're not nervous about them being 0-3 ATS at home this year?
No, they're due for a cover, Emerson.
All right. Well, Eagles 3-1 ATS as a road favorite this season, Jules.
Yeah, Philly's struggling with Washington.
Yeah.
I don't really use your like.
I mean, I'm just teeing you up. I'm just giving you the
I
facts
know,
here,
and
homie.
then I'm gonna talk, but then generally I talk about something different. So
That's fine. You can do what you
Washington has
want.
played Philly well. They played them well in that game went to overtime, right? Where they won by 3 in Philly earlier in the year. Washington was the first team to pick Philly off last year. They're at home here, and like we mentioned on the previous segment, Washington is playing to kind of avoid moving guys at the deadline. This game is going to be a measuring stick for them. So it would be take the 7 with Washington for me or pass. I do think it's a better player prop game. Look at those A.J. Brown props that we talked about. Jalen Hurts, anytime touchdown scorer, has become kind of a weekly staple.
All right, Jets at the Giants. We have ourselves a MetLife Stadium brawl between these two teams. First time that they have met since week 10 of the 2019 season. Also, a slate low total. Bukes, 34.5 right now.
Oh, this game is stupid. I mean, this game is ridiculous.
Nasty.
There's
Daniel Jones isn't going to be back till like week 10.
I put it this way: there's 2 quarterbacks in this game. Neither of them have a passing prop over 200 yards. They're both 193 and 182 passing yards for these 2 quarterbacks. Offensive, whatever you want to call this one here. Give me Zach Wilson under 193.5. While this feels like a low total to begin with, he's already gone under this number 4 times this season. Like, the Giants are going to be all up in Zach Wilson's face in this game. That Jets offensive line continues to be ravaged by injury. Yeah. And how do you know that? Well, that's because Zach Wilson has been under pressure on 42% of his dropbacks since taking over for Aaron Rodgers in this game. In that scenario, he has a 43% reception rate, 4.5 yards per pass attempt, and has yet to throw a touchdown while under pressure. The Giants are just going to throw the kitchen sink, basically, at Zach Wilson in this game. Give me under 193 passing yards for Zach Wilson today. This game is going to be, don't even bother. Just stay away.
Don't even watch it, for crying out loud. At MetLife Stadium, speaking of under, the under is a combined 6-1 between these teams.
Yeah, it could be a very low-scoring game, Emerson, and I'm going to go with the Giants in this spot. This looks like a sharp line freeze in favor of the G-men. Public's all over the Jets. They're getting 68% of bets. What's notable to me, though, Jets open -3. They've stayed -3. If you're getting 2/3 of bets, typically a team that popular will move from -3 to 3.5 to 4. That's the normal movement you'll see. The fact that it's heavy betting Jets and the line hasn't moved at all, it stayed right at 3. Emerson, that tells me that the books don't want to give out the hook. They're more concerned about the Giants' liability. I just can't back Zach Wilson as a favorite. Also, if you look at Tyrod Taylor as a dog in his career, 19-12 ATS, 61%. Give me the Giants +3.
Jules, we do have the Jets coming off a bye here. Like, how much better of an offensive performance do you expect out of Zach Wilson?
I actually do like the Jets coming off a bye ever since.
Oh, look at this! I teed you up.
I'll lay the 3. I'll lay the 3 with the Jets. I have no problem with it. I think that they will be better coming off the bye. I think that they've pieced things together over the last few games that they played. They've gotten a little better. I expect them to improve a little bit off a bye. You have the Giants coming off of a big win over Washington. I think that the Jets have a lot of advantages in this game over the Giants, and we're going to see maybe the quarterbacks both stink, but on the rest of the playing field, I think that the Jets are going to take advantage. So I do like laying 3 with the Jets in this game.
Tyrod Taylor give the Giants a better chance at winning than Daniel Jones, you think?
Of course.
Probably.
Yeah, of course. But I'm not betting this game still.
No, I know. I know you're not even going to be watching it. Falcons at the Titans here, Josh. By the way, Derrick Henry, it was reported yesterday, not expected to be traded when many people thought the Titans were going to go in this fire sale direction.
Very dumb.
Just quickly, your opinion on that. Do you believe they should be taking calls on him right now? Or no, they need, Will Levis needs as much help as he can get behind him?
I think as a coach, Vrabel doesn't want to trade him. Obviously, that's one of your best players. But again, running backs, you start to get a little bit older. All the miles on these tires here for the running back there. I would look toward trade him and getting as much as he can.
Okay.
Maybe get a first-round pick. Emerson, I would just say for this game here, you mentioned Desmond Ridder. I am a fan of Ridder. He's a winner. His numbers aren't amazing. He's, I believe, 5-1 at home, but 1-3 on the road. He's really been Jekyll and Hyde home road. This line did go to Atlanta. It was like a pick'em game. It's up to -2.5. I think it's a great spot to tease up Tennessee, 2.5 up to 8.5. Mike Vrabel, coming off a bye, has been fantastic in his career, about 65% ATS. I'll look toward Tennessee, dog in a very low total game.
Jules, what's the move here with this game? I don't think you were part of our segment earlier with like Desmond Ridder has been very profitable for bettors.
Yeah, so we talked about this game briefly on the show yesterday. Sure, Ritter's profitable. I do like the matchup for him. It is a tough run defense for Tennessee and kind of funnels towards the pass. So if you want to play the over on Ridder in the passing yards, I have no problem with that. I just think this is a really tough game to navigate. I don't like the Falcons very much. And Tennessee is kind of a wild card here. We're going to see what Levis is. Will they go to Willis? I have no idea, so I'm going to pass on the game.
I mean, Arthur Smith was once the Titans offensive coordinator here, so that also means Mike Vrabel and his coaching staff
Familiarity.
may know his tendencies just a wee bit. Okay, we have to take a break here on the Sweat. Coming up, you need some help building some money-making DFS lineups. We have got you covered. Price Check is next. Back here on The Sweat, everybody. Good to have you here. Ahead of kicking off our second hour, we're going to take a quick sports betting break and help you build some money making lineups on DraftKings. Let's price check. Let's see who you should pay up for, who you should maybe pass on with two of my favorites. DraftKings Network contributors, Pierce Dietrich, Jeff Ulrich. Damn good to have you here this morning, gentlemen, and we will start under center. Quarterback. Who do you like this week, Jeff Ulrich?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Jordan Love has a little bit of appeal for fantasy. I mean, you look at Jordan Love, everyone's kind of down on the Packers. Everyone's kind of up on the Vikings, but the Vikings are still a pretty soft matchup. I mean, they blitz a lot, and that's good for Jordan Love because Jordan Love's a pretty solid runner. He's averaging over 20 rush yards this year. He's got a big play receiver in Christian Watson, and he's only 5,700 on DraftKings. So you can pair those two. You could use Love on his own because he's such a good rushing quarterback, but whatever way you slice it, at 5,700, if you're looking for a quarterback under 6K for DFS, I really do think Love has some appeal. I think he's got multiple touchdown upside against the Vikings.
Could you trust him, Pierce Dietrich? Jordan Love?
Hey, I don't know if I'm going to go to Jordan Love. I understand the hype train, but I'll make you happy. How about Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah.
Boy,
Jaguars are favored in Pittsburgh.
Yes, they are.
And if you look at Lawrence's stat line, it tells you something. What, 14, 15 DKFP in 6 or 7 games this year. Very solid floor, and they've played all over, the world, and that really hasn't held them back. They're scoring a lot of points, over 23 points in 5 of 7 games this season, so the offense looks good. And as Steve mentioned in the last segment, the Steelers have allowed the third most fantasy points to opposing receivers. That usually means the quarterback has a good day as well. I think there is upside here. There's definitely a very safe floor.
Yeah, and Steve is eyeing Calvin Ridley, one of Trevor's top targets in the wide receiver props department today. Hell, Travis Etienne right behind him in the backfield. Maybe that's who you're targeting at running back? You tell me, Pierce Dietrich.
Yeah, I definitely was looking at ETN, but I'm going to go with Breece Hall. He basically is the Jets offense. 31 fantasy points against Denver, 20 against Philadelphia. And in this matchup today, he's going to face the Giants, which we look at the good versus bad spectrum. They're going to be more towards the bad side like Denver. So 30 fantasy points isn't going to be out of the question for Hall. Obviously, we do rely a little bit on some of those big, giant boom-bust plays, but if we want to win a GPP, you've got to pick the boom-bust players, and really, no one's been more explosive than Breece Hall this season. And the Giants, you look at statistically when it comes to yards per attempt and yards per game, they're one of the worst rush defenses in football.
All right, Jeff Ulrich, your running back du jour in DFS today.
Yeah, I mean, clearly Pierce has been reading my article because look, everyone should like Breece Hall today. It's a fantastic matchup. He should be about 7,900, not 5,900. So that's a good shout out, obviously. I'll be dead honest. I don't mind going back to Ramondre Stevenson at 5,400 either. I think when you look in this range, where else do you get the blend of, like potential red zone usage and potential receiving usage with Ramondre Stevenson? You don't really. Brian Robinson Jr. is about to have his job taken away by Chris Rodriguez. Damian Pierce is getting his carries cut into by Devin Singletary. I know Ezekiel Elliott's there, but the primary receiver for the Patriots out of the backfield is easily Stevenson. He's a great receiver, and he's still getting a lot of red zone touches. Scored last week. Obviously had like a big receiving game, 5 for 51. I mean, Miami's defense is not to be feared here. I think if anything, this presents just a good game flow for fantasy purposes for Stevenson, potentially getting 5 or 6 catches again. So I think at 5,400, he's got a lot of appeal too.
All right, Pierce Dietrich, been reading Jeff's articles. Jeff, you've been reading Pierce's NASCAR articles. At wide receiver, Pierce, who have you been studying on Jeff's articles?
I like Christian Kirk. I think he's one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. He was great for the Cardinals. He was good in his first year with the Jaguars. I know Steve is leaning more towards Calvin Ridley. That's fine. With Zay Jones out, we're going to see more volume from both of these guys. As I mentioned before, the Jaguars offense is putting points on the board. Christian Kirk, I think in 6 straight games, has had about 15 DKFB, so he has a solid floor. We're going to see his usage bump up a little bit more. And again, as we mentioned, the Steelers have allowed the third most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers, so there definitely is going to be upside. I don't even mind going with Jamal Agnew as a punt option. It worked on Thursday night.
Yeah, it did.
And you could probably go there again.
Yeah, they were ignoring Calvin Ridley on Thursday night against the Saints. They're like, oh, Jamal Agnew, yeah, sure. Here's like 5-6 catches, whatever. This is a very top-heavy position this week, Jeff. Tyreek Hill, $9,500. Cooper Kupp, $9,000. Then there's the drop-off, $900 drop-off to Jamar Chase. So what's the move here? Do you spend up at wide receiver this week?
So first of all, I'm sorry that I have to break up the Jags love fest here and not pick a Jacksonville player.
It's all good.
It's very, I know.
I'm proud of him.
I mean, it's terrible of me to do it, but I think that I really don't love the spot for all the top wide receivers this week. Hill is a little bit banged up. I don't mind CeeDee Lamb, but if you go under 7K, DK Metcalf at 6,800 is really interesting to me for big field GPPs. We're trying to win $1 million here, trying to get the top prize. I don't think anyone's going to use Metcalf in a matchup against the Browns, but the Browns allowed 12.5 yards per attempt last week. They allowed 3 different wide receivers to go for 50-plus yards. They allowed 2 touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. The Browns are on the road for the second week in a game, a second game in a week. I think Metcalf, coming off the injury report, he practiced in full this week. I think he's in actually a really good spot. I really do. This is a player who's easily capable of 100 yards and a touchdown anytime he steps on the field. And I think at under 7K, it's a good week to potentially take a shot on him. No one's going to use him. This game's got a low total, but DK Metcalf is just one of those players where when everyone's off him, it's sometimes good to just get some shares. And I do feel like this is a big week coming up for Metcalf.
Let me ask you this, Jeff, because some of these dudes are so ridiculously priced. Tyreek Hill, $9,500. And then if you go back to running back, Christian McCaffrey, $9,200 here. Between those two dudes, which one is more worthy of his price tag?
I mean, it has to be. I mean, McCaffrey to me just scares me a little bit because the Bengals defense has been good and he's banged up. I would have to say it's Hill because he came off the injury report. Everything looks okay. You just can't fade Hill at this point. He is the Miami offense. I mean, New England, like I said, I don't love it this week, but if I'm choosing between those two, I would go up to Tyreek Hill.
And one of his lowest outputs, talking Tyreek Hill here, Pierce Dietrich, one of his lowest fantasy point outputs this season was 15 against New England back in week 2. Like Bill Belichick is known for taking away his opponent's top target.
Yeah, that is what we say. Takes out their top opponent. And you can look back to last season. Yeah, it is true, but you can look back to there's a lot more context to game situations, whether Tyreek Hill really needs to have a big game or not. And if I had to choose between him and McCaffrey, it's clearly going to be Tyreek Hill. The Bill Belichick stuff aside, I don't trust Brock Purdy. I'm not really in love with San Francisco's offense at the moment. The Bengals matchup is tough, whereas I love Miami's scheme. I love the role that Tyreek plays. Okay. So for me, without hesitation, it's going to be Tyreek Hill.
All right, so Jeff, which tight end do you trust? Another position where, I don't know, you kind of take shots, you take chances week in and week out, because there's Travis Kelce, $8,400. Then Mandrews, $6,400, $2,000 cheaper. We don't know, right, if Taylor Swift's going to be at this game today. I have no clue. She will be, I believe. Reports are she will be. And Travis Kelce has averaged like 100 yards receiving with her in the stands, dude.
Do we have like a Taylor Swift like stat person just putting stuff in your ear? Is that what this is?
Yes, it's producer Drew, who is a Swiftie in my ear right now. Yes.
Look, you could go with Team Swift if that's your thing and you want to just follow the crowd, or you could go with my cheap guy here, who is Trey McBride, who is now the primary pass catcher for the Arizona Cardinals. Zach Ertz is on IR. McBride had 6 targets last week. He had 5 targets the week before. I can only see his snap count going up. The Cardinals should be in a pass-happy situation, and the back part of this game is only 2,800. We're absolutely laughing here if Trey McBride gets us, 8 points. But if he falls in the end zone, if he goes for a 30-yard run or something, gets us 10-plus points, all those Taylor Swift lineups with Travis Kelce and his 15 points, who they paid like $1 billion for, they're going to look pretty silly. So we're going to go with Trey McBride as our punt play here. I think it's actually a good spot to take advantage of him. I think his price will go up as the weeks go on. So kind of buying low here on Trey McBride, who again, with Zach Ertz out, the primary pass catcher now.
Listen, Taylor Swift releasing a new album, Pierce Dietrich. If there's any week to pay the $8,400 for a tight end, Travis Kelce, this may be it, bro.
Yeah, so in my other life, I am around a lot of teenagers,
Okay.
and I'd never heard them talk about fantasy football before, but this Kelsey Swift thing is just next level. Uh, I don't know. I wouldn't fade it. Doesn't see. I mean, you might as well just
Thank
keep
you.
playing him. There is something mythical and mystical and magical happening. So I think you just keep riding this Kelsey train until
Okay.
it busts.
All
The
right.
other way I would go is Dalton Schultz. I like
Okay.
what his role has been in the last 3 weeks for the Panthers. It's a good matchup. I don't know if the receivers are really going to excel in
Righty,
that
Pierce.
situation because they want to run the ball, but Schultz, yeah.
All right, good stuff, my man. Sorry to cut you off. We got to get to break here. And more best bets are coming up next. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. We'll see if the Bengals can take advantage of a banged up Niner squad next.
You're watching DraftKings Network's Sunday pregame power-up.
Indeed, you are back here on the Sweat, kicking up the second hour of not only this show, but also the 5-hour pregame power-up block on DraftKings Network, as well as VSiN. This potentially award-winning program will be followed by the Lombardi line.
I like the optimism.
There is potential. Whether we hit that potential is a whole nother conversation. Brent Musburger's countdown to kickoff will take you from high noon up to 1 o'clock Eastern time, which is when the 1 o'clock window of games kicks off. Let's get back to some best bets here, Julian. Starting with the Bengals and the 49ers. This game looked totally different like days ago when it was rumored Brock Purdy may not be exiting concussion protocol, and it would have been Sam Darnold under center. But instead, Purdy is in. So what is the bet in this one?
I wish. So
nice exhale. Yeah, go ahead, let it out, man. No stress, no pressure.
I wish I could back the 49ers in a spot where they were going to Darnold. That's what I'm exhaling about. I want Purdy to be out, and then the market move, and then I bet on Darnold and the 49ers because Darnold's been in bad positions his whole career. Now he's in a good position. I bet he would thrive, in the right spot. But I like this Bengals team. They're playing well lately. Burrow's getting healthier, and they have some ground to make up from earlier in the season. So I can't go against the Bengals this week. So I got to pass on the game, but I can talk myself into both sides.
Okay, 49ers have lost 2 in a row, Steven. Yep. Really good teams like this hardly ever lose 3 straight.
This is going to be your upset of the week.
Yeah?
This is your upset of the week.
My man!
Backing the Bengals on the money line in this one here. This was 210 last night. It's now plus 180 for the money line here. Bengals coming off a bye. T. Higgins is more healthy. Their offensive line is more healthy. I think it's Orlando Brown, their left tackle, will be active.
Joe Burrow's calf is more healthy.
And not only that, but when we talk about Joe Burrow, one of the biggest knocks against him is that he's constantly under pressure. His offensive line is letting all this pressure come on him. He's only been under pressure on 25% of his dropbacks so far this season. And that run game for the Bengals has been non-existent. Joe Mixon has looked absolutely horrible. Everyone keeps saying, this is a Joe Mixon week. This is a Joe Mixon week. We're done with Joe Mixon.
That happened last season.
Will you let me finish?
Yeah.
So that run game is basically non-existent at this point, and they're facing a defense that has allowed the 3rd most receptions to wide receivers and over 240 passing yards per game. Great spot for Joe Burrow and their receivers. Give me the Bengals in the upset. Go ahead.
I was going to say, remember this happened last year with Joe Mixon. Then it was middle or towards the late end of the season. Remember he had the 4 touchdown game, and everyone's like, oh, he's back. And then he farted all over himself the following week. Josh, so it sounds like promising developments here for the Bengals that these guys have mentioned, but they are just 2-3 ATS under Zach Taylor coming out of a bye.
We have a trendy dog alert, Emerson.
Oh, here we go.
Whoa. Trendy dog alert. Let's get it going because this is the most popular dog of the day. 65% of bets on the Bengals. I totally understand it. Bengals looking better. They're off a bye. They've won 2 straight. Meanwhile, San Francisco, you're probably buying low at their lowest point right now, having lost 2 straight, tons of injuries. But here's the thing, guys. What's the market doing? There's been a ton of buyback on San Francisco. They opened -6. At one point, they got all the way down to -3. Then when it was announced Brock Purdy's going to play, it's back up to 5. Some shops are juiced up like it may even go to 5.5. So this just screams to me, looks easy, looks obvious. I know if you do want to back the Bengals, Joe Burrow, to his credit, is good ATS. 16-8 ATS as a dog, 67%. But guys, public's all over. Bengals, Lions going to the 49ers. I like Niners to win by a touchdown or more.
All right, so not that it has to do with my thoughts of the game, but thoughts on the market analysis. That move, is that buyback on the Niners, or is that just people assuming, because nobody has played as quickly as Purdy did out of concussion protocol. People assumed he was out off that Schefter tweet. So the market moves as if Darnold's going to be the quarterback. So now the line moves back for Purdy to where it should be. So is that sharp buyback on San Francisco, or is that the market reacting to the quarterback change that they didn't think was going to be?
Yeah, Josh.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Answer the question.
I think wishes he thought of that.
The initial move was injury-related, I totally admit. Again, 6 down to 3, 3.5, 4. But over the last day, 24 hours, 4s are now up to 5. We knew that Purdy was going to play it. It wasn't going to be Darnold. So that tells me that, again, the initial move was injury-based, but I'm still seeing further movement in favor of San Fran when you already knew Purdy was in.
Legitimate question. Can you say, because of this scenario, that maybe you just kind of not even look at that because there's been so much change, because there's been so much uncertainty. I get that you have your system and you do that, but I think it's fair to say because of this situation, you can't really go by what's happened because there's been so much uncertainty under quarterback.
That's true, yeah, but again, the odds makers have adjusted. We know pretty much who's going to play at this point. To me, it just shapes up to, again, Publix all over Bengals, yet this line's going for San Fran, and game day, late moving is still going San Fran. This just reeks to me as again, fade the trendy dog play. Give me Niners.
You can host again.
Niners, okay, no, I enjoyed that conversation. I learned quite a bit.
Give me both sides, isn't it?
No, I love that. That's what this show should be. It shouldn't be you jamokes all
agree
agreeing on everything for crying out loud. I know, I already missed Marco. Ravens at the Cardinals, Bukes.
Yeah, so this is a tough one to really pick a side here because I think honestly that both teams have a legitimate chance of covering in this one here. So I'm just going to take a player prop. I'm going to go with Trey McBride over 3.5 receptions in this game. He is the bona fide tight end one in this offense now that Zach Ertz has been placed on the IR. The tides have kind of been shifting already between who's the lead tight end in this offense as McBride has seen 14 targets, 9 receptions over the past 3 weeks now over Zach Ertz because Zach Ertz has been healthy for all those games. He was running a route on 80% of his snaps overall, but the last 3 weeks he's been up to 91% running a route on the when he's been on the field in this one. So I think this is a great spot for McBride to go over 3.5 receptions.
All right, what has your attention in this game?
Just this line move here toward the Ravens. I don't really want much part of this game. I mean, you had the Ravens open as low as -7.5. They're now bet up to -9.5, even some 10s. I think to Steve's point, it's a tough cap because every time this gets to the key number of 10, you do get a little bit of buyback buying low there on Arizona +10. Now, Lamar Jackson, dog versus fave, huge difference here. As a dog, Lamar Jackson in his career is 11-1 against the spread. He's been awesome. As a favorite, he's just 26-30 ATS. So, again, it's a big number. I got to respect the line move to the Ravens. They're getting 72% bets, 80% money. It's a pass for me, but I think you can make a case for either the 10 with Arizona or if you like the Ravens, find it at 9.5.
Jules, Lamar Jackson in the pass game looked like they finally have it rolling in there right now. And then while the defense leads the NFL in points allowed.
That's exactly why I'm going to the rushing game here for the Ravens. If Baltimore was down at 8.5, I would love him as a teaser leg, get him to 2.5, put him with Miami, who's going to smoke the Patriots.
Pats are going to cover.
But
you're out of your
not
mind.
Going that
You've
way.
got to stop.
So, we should probably talk about Patriots-Dolphins more because it's quite a talking point. Anyway, Gus Edwards over 55.5 rushing yards here. He's been, they've been mixing some guys into the Baltimore backfield, but when healthy, he's been the guy that's taken the bulk of that workload. He's been running the ball well lately. Arizona ranks 25th in the NFL in terms of rushing yards allowed per game, over $130 if game script holds. Baltimore gets the lead. Run it with the Gus bus late in the game, get over 55.5 yards.
Are we doing Chiefs Broncos now?
Yes, we are.
Ask him first.
All right, Chiefs Broncos. Why? Why do you want me to ask?
I want to
him
hear
first?
what he says first.
Okay.
Broncos all day, +7.
All right.
Why?
All did you hear of a potential weather
Marco's
threat?
best
Well,
bet
first
as
off,
well.
is Taylor Swift going to be at the game? I need to know that.
Yes,
That impacts my betting
we
angle.
talked about it last segment. Producer Drew said, yes, reports are that she is going to be in the stands.
So
Amazing.
hammer
She's earned her
the
sleep.
Kelsey overs. That's what you got to do. But I would say Chiefs, most popular bet of the day, 86% of bets. What's the line doing, though? It's falling down toward Denver. Open Chiefs -8.5. It's down to 7. Broncos have that reverse line movement, and they're a divisional dog. I like this spot here with the Broncos and the points. Now, coach quarterback, Russell Wilson in his career as a dog, 65% against the spread. When he's just with the Broncos, 6-4 ATS. Peyton, 60% ATS as a dog. Mile high home field. Again, this is everybody in the. This reminds me a lot, actually, of the Bills and the Patriots last week, where everyone was on that road favorite, yet the line fell. Give me the contrarian play, Broncos.
I was a little windy at that game last week. I was there at Patriots Bills. I know there's been some conversation about potential snow in this game.
Yes.
Well, I have a source, a weather source, who says, to be honest, the field will be pretty much clear. Heaviest snow has already fallen. Steve, I know that means something to you because you're such a big-time weather fanatic.
Well, see, that's why I wanted Josh to go first. Because I was hoping, I was praying he was going to bring that up so that we could shut him down and say your little weather system
right.
is
Well,
enough.
my weather
That's only 4-mile-an-hour winds. This is nothing.
Well,
I got
that's
no
what
matches,
I was. Well, because there's a lot of rumor. Here's the thing: if you're going to Adam Schefter for your weather reports, you're doing it wrong.
Come to me and my source.
Are you going to follow like Emeril Lagasse, a chef, and you're going to ask him for car advice? I don't think so. Adam Schefter is a football reporter. You don't go to him for weather advice.
Nope.
So everybody who saw that tweet yesterday and saw there was going to be all this snow, it's already done. The field's going to be clear.
Yeah.
There's going to be no wind in this one, and so Josh, that's why I was begging that
You're
Josh
pleasantly
would do
surprised
that
I didn't
weather
go
system,
wind.
Yeah.
and he didn't go that direction, and I'm really upset.
Could be some very minor accumulation during
Could be
the
cold,
game,
though,
but
right?
nowhere near a snowball
very
type
cold.
game.
Yes.
Okay, from a weatherman. Samir was on this group chat too. All right, next game very quick. Let's go Browns at Seahawks here. Browns are 2-0. PJ Walker, man, but he has really not been great if you look at the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, at some point we're going to have to sell high, I guess, on PJ Walker. And the Browns defense showed last week that it is not quite as invincible as everybody believes it is, and gave up a ton of points to the Colts. Should have lost that game as well, outright. Wild late flag. This is Seattle for me. Seattle seems to be in a pretty good spot here. Everybody loves Cleveland. PJ Walker is the better decision over Deshaun Watson right now. I will give them that. Or PJ Walker is the better decision over Watson. Walker.
No, that's fine, dude.
Either way, that's not a good thing. That means you have two bad quarterbacks, is what I'm trying to get at here.
Yeah, dude.
Seattle.
Even if it's PJ Walker at quarterback, though, here, Josh, I think the defense, right? Can it find a way to limit Seattle's offense and pull up the offset?
Well, they have one of the best defenses in football, and this has been hammered to the under. The total is like 41. It's all the way down to 37.5. About 40% bets, 60% money under. I'm with Julian, though. I like Seattle in this game. Tickets are down the middle, 50-50, yet the line's going to Seattle. Obviously, that's quarterback related. Open 1.5, now up to 3.5, but non-conference favorites have been great. I'll go money line with Seattle, minus 190.
All right. We have to take a break, but coming up, Julian and Steen. This is an idea of jewels here. We'll compare DFS prices to correlating player props. They don't always work out. As the pregame power-up on DraftKings Network and VSiN continues next.
About to find out if this one.
All right, back here on the Sweat as we kick off our pregame power-up. I'm very, very excited for this segment. I will say, you two, Josh, you're very creative dudes. You have a lot cooking up here between the ears. So this segment is an idea that you reportedly came up with, and it's called Prop or Price. So really quickly, for the people at home, you'd like to explain what this block is, what this idea is?
Yes, prop or price. So obviously we are DraftKings. We have DFS and a sports book. So let's come up with a segment that nobody else is doing. Let's say, would you rather, for example, the segment's going to start with Bijan Robinson, who is $6,000 on the DFS slate today. Would you rather roster Bijan Robinson at that price or bet his prop?
Yeah.
His player prop is 49.5 rushing yards last I looked. So what would you rather do? There's your segment.
Yeah. All right. That's easy enough. I have seen this segment like everywhere else.
Unheard of content in this industry.
So you didn't want to call it Would You Rather?
No, I wanted to call it prop or price.
Yeah, that's been used. You can't steal that. All right, so let's start there with Bijan. So, Jules, you start us off. Would you rather roster him at $6,000 DFS, or you want to take that rushing yards prop?
Yeah, so we're starting with him because he's the most interesting talking point.
Yeah,
right?
after
he
last
gets
week?
benched last week, but does come in late, plays a snap. How are they going to use him this week? Right. So that to me means a stay away on the prop because we don't know what to expect. In DFS, what we want to do if we're playing a tournament is get low ownership, and I think people are going to be scared away. And if he plays his full role, there's obviously 100-yard and multi-touchdown potential here. So I will roster Robinson in DFS and hope that he's low owned and he goes off. And if he does, he could blow the 49.5 rushing prop out of the water. We know that.
No, I agree with that too, because especially when you're talking about his salary, this is the cheapest that we've seen Bijan Robinson so far this season. He's always been someone who's consistently been, he started off in the 8K range, was in the mid 7K range. Now he's down to, what was the? 6K. Like that's like a RB2 price at this point. So I would much rather take that too. And then just going off the point we were talking about earlier in the show, what are we going to see out of Tennessee? You know, could the Atlanta take a sizable lead in this game because we have Malik Willis and or Will Levis taking under the snaps under quarterback here in this game? So I'd much rather roster him in a tournament than take a over on his prop.
Okay, so Puka Nacua now, $7,900, Rams wide receiver in DFS. 75.5 is his receiving yards. It's interesting, Jules, because like the past 2 weeks, you had Cooper Kupp return in week 6, right? And Nacua has 26 yards receiving. Last week goes off, catching 8 of 12 targets for 154 yards. So which version of him do you believe shows up today?
I like Puka Nacua overall. I think he's a great get by the Rams. I don't want to roster him because I think everybody's rostering him right now, and he's fairly expensive. And I don't want to bet his player prop. But if I were betting it, and I know it's a matchup against those Cowboys corners, I'll be looking at Puka Nacua unders. He's eventually going to come back to life. There's always the threat of the big Cooper Kupp game, and he gets ignored a little bit more. And what I don't like, I do like Dallas to get a lead in this game, and then they're going to be throwing late. That's why I'm ultimately not betting it. But I do think in the right spots, there's going to be places that we can fade Puka Nacua.
This is getting really tough now because you really have a 1A and 1B, at least from what we've seen since Cooper Kupp has returned. Like the first 2 games, he had over 100 receiving yards in those first 2 games. Then last week, only 2 catches on 7 targets for 29 yards. Like, when was the last time you saw Cooper Kupp really just be a non-factor in a Rams offense? And that's kind of what we saw last week because a lot of those targets were going to Puka Nacua. But like I mentioned here, I think Dallas their defensive line is just going to be all over Stafford in this game. Stafford does get out the ball very quickly, so there is that potential there. But if he's getting the ball out quickly, maybe that's more of like a Tyler Higbee situation or some of his running backs, whether it's Henderson or Freeman, not necessarily Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua.
I know.
So
it's tough.
It is. So I'm definitely going under on both. I'm not rostering Puka, and I'd be looking at his unders this week.
All right, so now let's go to Tua because we know how insane.
Oh, the team that's blowing out the Patriots today.
Yeah,
got it.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Don't tell Josh that, though.
I'll tell Josh that.
Oh, hey, Josh, didn't see you sitting over there off camera. So Tua and the Dolphins offense, they're insane at home.
Yeah.
We've mentioned already they're winning their games by an average of like 4 touchdowns when they're at home. He's $7,700 going up against the Pats. His passing yards total is 278.5 on the DK Sportsbook. Would you rather roster him in DFS or bet the prop?
And I'm gonna. So I created a list here. I should have put Tyreek Hill right next to him. We might as well talk.
Okay,
about
yeah.
both of them
If you
here.
want it, go ahead and do them both.
Tyreek Hill is on there. He's $9,500. His
Yeah.
prop is 91.5 receiving yards.
Which Jeff and Pierce earlier in the show like Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I love Tyreek Hill.
Hot take there from those guys.
I know. That's why we put him on one block.
He got shut down. He got shut down by the Patriots, or not shut down. He limited by the Patriots.
Yeah, because he
earlier in the
scored, but it
season.
was only 15 fantasy points.
Yeah. But the next day, Tyreek Hill on his podcast, because everybody in the NFL has a podcast now, said Christian Gonzalez. Steve and I also have a podcast.
Yeah, there you
Steve
go.
doesn't do it anymore though. So, oh man, you messed me up. He said on his podcast that Christian Gonzalez played him very well, shut him down. Well, Christian Gonzalez isn't playing. Who was the best pass rusher in that game? Judon, not playing. Going to give Tua more time. So I think that if you pay up, find some values, you can stack these two in DFS in a tournament, and I would play overs on both of them. So give me both. If I like them, I'm stacking them in a tournament and I'm betting their overs on the sportsbook.
So week 2 when Tua played New England here at Gillette, under 14 fantasy points, and he had 249 passing yards.
Yeah, I mean, now I was going to say that there. Like, so he was basically under by 31 passing yards with all of those defensive players in.
Okay.
Now all of
No
those
Uche
guys
now, too.
are out. Correct. Now all of those guys are out. What's going to happen now for the Dolphins? Like, they should be going up and down the field. They should be winning by double-digit points, Josh.
The people watching don't know that Josh is sitting
I know
over there.
Josh is sitting there, and I'm speaking to him. I don't care if people know.
Yeah.
Josh is over there.
Bullying
okay?
works, people. Bullying works.
But, so, like, literally, we're talking
There he
about...
is.
Yeah, there he is. See? Yeah, there he is. I think that the Dolphins are going to blow out the Patriots today. So I would be taking overs on Tua in this one here. Like, maybe they do still limit Tyreek Hill. Let's just say they do.
Okay.
Then that opens up so much more for Jalen Waddle, too. So, like, there are many paths for Tua to still hit this, even if Tyreek Hill has an average game at best. So give me the over on both of those, playing Tua and taking the over on his passing yards.
Okay, what about for Pacheco here? For the Chiefs, $6,100 in DFS, Jules, 64.5 rushing yards. Doesn't sound like there are any more weather concerns there after my weather source cleared everything up.
Yes, huge by your weather source.
Yeah, shout out to Jacob.
I like a lot going on at the running back position today. I think there's some good plays there. So while I like Pacheco as a DFS play, I'll probably pass on him there and bet the over on the 64.5 rushing yards, which I know Josh talked about in the prop segment earlier on the show. So no need to hammer it home, but nobody in the NFL is allowing more rushing yards than the Denver Broncos, and you've got Pacheco as a touchdown favorite in this game, and if any weather concerns do come into play, running the ball generally the safer route. So he didn't get it. I bet him in the home game when they beat the Broncos.
62.
That was kind of disappointing. I'll go back to it. Generally, these things kind of turn the other way the second time around.
You like him more in DFS? You like him over on the DK Sportsbook?
Probably more on the sportsbook. He's a little pricey on DraftKings. He's at 6,100. And like Julian said, like there's a lot of good options at running back today. Like we mentioned, Bijan Robinson, 6,000. Like he's actually cheaper than Pacheco in this game. So I'd actually probably rather go to Bijan when his stock is at his lowest, whereas Pacheco is probably going to be someone that people are going to be looking at because, you know, they have this false sense of reality that it's going to be this messy game, you know, there's going to be snow everywhere. So people are going to play Pacheco because they're like, oh, how can they play with all this snow falling? There's not going to be any snow falling in this game, folks.
That's true.
So that's why you watch the show. You get this inside information. But Pacheco, I think, is a fine play to go over his yards today, but I wouldn't be doing him on DraftKings. I think he's just a little too pricey, especially when you consider some of the guys that are surrounding him in price.
What's interesting is Jordan Addison's price has stayed the same.
Yeah.
So he's $5,700. It looks like for the third straight week, Jules. And last week we saw him absolutely go off, 7 catches, 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns for the Vikings.
Yeah, I don't get this one. I would roster him and play the over as the real answer, but I put out Jordan Addison over 58.5 receiving yards as a play, so I'm going to go with the prop. I'd rather bet the over on the prop. Now, the last time that it looked like or one of the last times it looked like a good week to roster him or target him in props, he was targeted once and didn't have a catch. There's a weird outlier game in there. I think he's going to build some momentum, build some trust with Kirk Cousins as a rookie coming off that huge Monday Night Football game. Packers do rank 8th in the NFL in terms of passing yards allowed, so it's not like it's the best matchup, but I don't really care there. I'm going to play the over. With you take all that production from Jefferson out, it's got to go somewhere.
And he's been bet down from plus 190 to plus 155 for anytime touchdown score.
I'm not a big fan of Addison this week, honestly, and I think this is a situation where where people are going one direction, you go in the opposite here, especially if you're doing tournaments. People are going to be so high on Addison, but give the Packers some love here. Defensively, they have been really strong this season. I think they're going to give Kirk Cousins a lot of trust issues here to get the ball out of his hands. So I think when a lot of people are going to Addison, just like Julian said, how is he this cheap? People are automatically going to go there, especially in tournaments. I think he gets way too over-owned in this matchup. I'm not going on Addison this week.
We have 30 seconds to go in this block here, Jules. Will Levis, proper price.
Oh God,
nothing.
Play him in you got to play him in DFS because he's $4,400. Can't get cheaper.
I don't think you can. There's too much uncertainty. Malik Willis is going to be in the mix as well.
Tournament.
156 and a half passing yards. Okay, hey, good job. That was a fun segment.
Yep.
Way to do some work.
Stuff, unseen content never before done.
Stick around, be quiet, because at 240 seconds, where all systems go. Windy unders, road favorites off a bye. Let's see what Josh and Jules say.
I'm out on this.
Welcome back to the Sweat, everybody. Now that prop or price is behind us, a new segment, producer Drew says, is never coming back.
He was just kidding.
We are,
fantastic.
what's he? He sounded pretty serious. We are all systems go here. It's a segment that Steve Buchanan absolutely loves, which is why he's not on this segment, because we're going to see which games, Josh, fit the systems that you can find on DraftKings Sportsbook. Starting with Buke's favorite, windy unders. What do we have today cooking on the slate in terms of windy unders?
So this is going to disappoint Steve Buchanan, who really pays attention to these trends because they can really have an impact on the total. There's only one windy under today, Emerson. So a little disappointing here. After last week, we got a bunch of them. Windy unders, though, whole thought process, we reset the table here. When the wind blows 10 miles per hour or more, very simple line of demarcation, take the under. It's 121 and 65%, 65% since 2021. The one system match today would be Patriots in Miami. Now, it's going to be hot, 80s there, so don't have to worry about cold temps.
That's a nice breeze, though, this time of year down there.
Not bad at all, but Emerson, 14 to 17 mile per hour winds. That's your top windy under here of the day. What's notable to me is public's leaning over. You have this great offense, obviously, of Miami, but less than half the tickets, but 77% of the money is on this Patriots and Dolphins under. Hasn't really moved at all. Outdoor divisional under, 61% since 2021. Windy divisional unders, 22 and 7, 76% since 2021. So, again, this is your only match today if you want to play the windy under, Pats and Dolphins under.
Jules, are you going to be considering the wind at all when you're betting the Dolphins to blow out the Patriots?
Not all that much. I don't mind the under in this game. Now Miami obviously goes deep down the field, so maybe it comes into play a little bit more. Thing is, if going deep down the field isn't working, then they'll just throw screens to Hill and Waddle, and those will work instead. So I'm confident that Miami scores in this game. I'm not confident that the Patriots ever score. So I don't mind the under. I could still see this being, let's say, 27-13 Miami. Easily gets you under, easily gets the double digits that I predicted Miami would win by. So something in that range.
We have received a thumbs up from Steve here.
Wow, he's not even on the segment. Now he wants to share his thoughts that he likes it.
That's fine. We could use all the help we could get here. Non-conference unders. Tell me about this.
So this is your other betting system here when it comes to totals because, again, unders have had a great year thus far. They're cashing it over a 60% clip. But let's isolate them a little bit deeper. Non-conference unders. Two teams from two different conferences face off, take the under. It's 22 and 11, 67% this year. I think the thought process is, hey, when you're unfamiliar with your opponent, maybe that's a benefit to the defense. The offense doesn't know what to expect. So a bunch of system matches today. One that caught my eye, Emerson, Atlanta, Tennessee. We've been talking about this game. Total open at 38.5. It's down to 35. You do have backup quarterbacks, obviously, or at least in terms of Tennessee going to Levis. 38% bet, 67% money is on this under. And I looked up Desmond Ridder, who, as we know, Emerson is a winner, but he's also 9-2 to the under in his career, 82%. Is this one of those, 18 to 15 games, 17, 14 games, something like that? I'm looking toward the Atlanta, Tennessee under. Thinks it's moved so much, but that's one that would qualify.
With the rookie quarterback starting, too. It is also, once again, worth pointing out, I think we mentioned earlier in the show, that the unders combined 11-2 between these teams this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's really low, obviously, but I would lean under in this game. I've said I'm not betting this game because there are so many unknowns. But when you look at it, Ridder, I don't think Ridder is very good. The matchup dictates for him to pass, so maybe he has a better than average passing game. But overall, if he's not a good player, then there's only so much the matchup can give him. So I don't think Atlanta gets much that way. And I say Tennessee's an unknown, but if you're going to make me guess, I'm going to guess things aren't going to go very well for Will Levis. So this could easily be a very, walking with cement blocks on your feet type of game. I don't.
Sounds like my upstairs neighbor.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see many points.
Okay, Josh, road favorites off of bye. What are we looking at here? Because one of these road favorites off of bye isn't necessarily on the road. An incredible point that I pointed out in our show meeting on Wednesday this week.
Incredible points.
Yeah,
Emerson,
me
that
too.
was a brilliant point made by you.
It was. Literally, everyone stood up
impressive.
giving me a round of applause. They're like, this guy said something that made sense for once.
Because to your point, Emerson, technically the system match here, road favorites off a bye, which again, if you're coming off a bye, you have extra rest, you can rehab, get ready, more time to game plan. But it's those road teams off a bye that tend to do even better because the public has that predisposition bias toward betting home teams. Road favorites off a bye. If you look over the last, I think it's like 15 to 20 years, 64% against the spread. But here's where it gets a little weird, Emerson.
Oh.
They're both playing at the Meadowlands, Jets, Giants. So are they really on the road? Not really. You could maybe just qualify them as just a regular favorite off a bye. I'm going to go Giants here. Obviously, this would go against this trend a little bit just because it's heavy betting Jets and the line hasn't moved. But that would be a system match on the Jets and then Houston as well. But that's another weird one, too, because Carolina's also off a bye. But I like the Houston Texans on the money line.
One of those rookie quarterbacks, though, has looked much better than the other. Jules, Giants are coming off their first victory of the season, yes, but that offense still averages 11.2 points per game in its last 5.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Giants are very good, and I don't think the offense is going to be much better today. And you're going up against a Jets defense that I think is decent, and they're coming off the bye. Josh disagrees with his own system. I do agree with his system, even though the system doesn't matter because it's a neutral site, or not even neutral, a double home game, if you want to call it that. So I don't. We got all types of stuff flying around here, but I'm on the other side. I'm on the Jets. I think that they're going to look good coming out of the bye. I think it's a sell high spot on the Giants coming off of their win. I just trust the Jets more overall here, and then I'm going to go against it the other way as well. I like the Panthers off the bye. Getting the 3.5 if I were betting it as a side, but like I said earlier on the show when we briefly had a chance, I'm playing Carolina team total, even money over the 20.5. I think coming off the bye, they're changing the play call, who's calling the plays here. They're going to get things in faster. They're going to run a little bit more, make Bryce Young more comfortable, and they've had 2 weeks to work on it. So I expect Carolina to look good at home offensively, and you get a great matchup against this Houston defense, familiar in division as well. I think that we're going to see Carolina here get to at least 21 on the board.
Sharp money's on Carolina, by the way.
It is.
And I know we're talking
As well as my
splits,
money.
public bets, sharp money here as we're all systems go.
Yeah, so one comment there with the Texans and the Panthers. So I think if you like Houston, you probably want to go money line just because you're now off the key number of 3. But I would totally admit, there seems to be a lot of respected money on the hook with the Panthers. And you'll see this all the time, 3, 3.5, 3, 3.5. There's always so much money on the line, whether it's the key number or the hook. Panthers are only getting 30% of bets. They're contrarian in this spot. To Julian's point, though, as I was digging a little bit deeper into the percentages, Emerson, maybe you go over. I know Julian likes the team total over there, but I noticed in the bet splits page, Texans-Panthers, only 52% of bets are on the over, but 83% of the money is on the over. So that tells me the public split, but all these bigger, sharper wagers are going over. We have seen that total rise 41 up to around 43.5 now.
All right, Jules?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm giving the team total over, then I'm not gonna push back here. So I'm playing it my way. I'm sticking to my way, but I don't. Do I believe in the Panthers defense to give the resistance here to not get the whole game over if I think they're gonna score? No. So no pushback from me here. I'm just playing it in a different way.
What other splits stand out to you today?
So the splits that stand out to me, a couple ones here. I always start with, again, what are the most contrarian plays of the day? We talked about it last week where you had the public all over the Bills. Patriots end up covering that number. Your version of that today would be the Denver Broncos. They're only getting 14% of bets. That is, you walk up to anybody in a bar, Emerson, no one wants to touch the Broncos. I'm the crazy guy that says there's value on them actually because they're so undervalued in terms of not getting public support. But we've seen that line move away from the Chiefs. Again, they're as high as -8.5 down to -7. They're only getting 14% of bets on the Broncos. Why is the line moving to the team getting 14% of bets? Tells me smart money in their favor. Packers and Commanders would also be contrarian plays today. Commanders are only getting 24% of bets. That's a divisional matchup in the second time around, so I like the +7 there with Commanders. And then the Saints are interesting to me. They're only getting 45% of bets, but 65% of the money, and you have seen that line move toward New Orleans as a very short favorite, like a pick'em -1, now up to around -2.
I mean, Jules, remember yesterday, Marco Piemonte, our guest analyst here on The Sweat, big-time bettor, likes the Broncos covering and said he would even consider them on the money line.
Yeah, all the games that Josh just gave out, I am not betting against any of them. I'm also not backing any of those sides. So none of them are on my card. However, I don't have a problem with any of the ways Josh went there. I'm not teasing the Chiefs down to a pick, put it that way. Or not teasing them down to -1. This could be it's a weird spot. They've already played this year. They played a low-scoring game that Kansas City covered, but they held them to 19 points at home on a Thursday game. Now you're on the road. We'll see what the snow is. We'll see what the temperature is. It's a game I don't want to get involved in, and the Broncos are just so pathetic that I'm even not going to take them at home as a 7-point dog. But I get why the money is there. And then the rest of them, like Saints, I agree with. I kind of want to bet the Saints this week, but Derek Carr, I'm not doing it with that. Not doing it again after what I saw in that Thursday night Jags game. So NFL's hard right now. I just need to see a little more to be more confident in getting involved in certain spots. Less is more on your NFL card right now.
Well, guys, we have breaking news because the Jets and Giants total on the DK Sportsbook has been bet up from 34.5 to 35.
Huh.
That's huge.
A little bit over
Speaking
money
of hard,
coming
it's
in.
going to be hard to see some points and touchdowns.
You must have
in
placed
that
a 92-cent bet on the over and moved the line.
Leave me alone in my 92-cent 5-leg same-game parlays, please. All right, we're wrapping up the show next with some favorite bets of the day, and we're breaking down the primetime slate as the sweat and the pregame power-up continues. Let's go.
You're watching DraftKings Network's Sunday pregame power-up.
All right, folks, we're saving the last for last here. Prime time games. Not exactly Super Bowl previews here if you look at these matchups this week, but one visiting quarterback coming off his first career win and the other returning from injury.
I think they got a good defense. They've got generational players and 52-3. So got to be aware of where they're at all times. And it's a team that we're going to have to be locked in again and we're going to need all 11. So looking to continue on the good days of practice in order to put our best foot forward on Sunday.
Feeling good. I felt good out there today throwing it around. Don't want to get into too many specifics, but overall feeling pretty good.
Hey, one of your favorite quarterbacks, right? Jimmy G?
Oh, yeah.
One of
Can't
the greats
wait.
of all time.
Yeah. You got to bet him or you got to bet Mac Jones to win MVP.
Well, we already saw that.
Yeah, I know that. For anyone who missed it. Anywho, Bears looked much improved last week, right?
Did they?
Yeah, I think so. Against the Raiders with Tyson Bagent playing a solid game. What's your best bet?
Yeah, so good that they're almost 9-point underdogs.
There you go,
Fantastic. I mean, I got to admit, like, these two games just feel like two clunkers, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I think if you want to get some action in this one, I would just tease down the favorites in both of them. You can get the Chargers at -2.5. You can get the Lions down to 2. You like that, don't you?
I agree.
I mean, but truly, like,
it's just I don't.
You don't want
like,
Jules
the
agreeing with
Raiders
you.
and the Bears are going to win these games.
right.
I don't think so.
I don't think so
know.
either. But truly, like, I really don't like either game. If I'm being brutally honest, we have to fill a segment, so I'm going to give you something here.
Yeah,
But I really think that teasing down the two favorites is probably the way to do it for this one. But other than that, I want nothing to do with Bears Chargers, quite frankly.
Unfortunately, we don't have the World Series tonight.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely could have used the World Series tonight.
We may just tune into this game
I'll
because
just
there's nothing else.
add to Steve's play before Josh goes. Like, it's good, decent spots for them as well. The Chargers are coming off the loss and failed cover at Kansas City. The Lions just got smoked by Baltimore, and they get a long week on Monday night to come back and prep for it.
Right.
It's not my favorite play, but like I don't disagree with you. Those favorites getting them down below a field goal, they should come through.
Josh, Chargers have too much talent to keep losing games. Is this where it ends, baby?
It's the coach.
So totally get the teaser play
dude.
here.
My God.
8.5 down to
brain
2.5.
fart.
That makes a ton of sense. I like the over in this one, guys. I think you might see some points in this game. The total open at 45. It's now been bet up to 46.5. 55% of bets are on the under, yet this total rose. And that tells me you have some smart money going with the contrarian over. Look at the Bears. They're 6-1 to the over this year. They're 16-8, 67% to the over since the start of last year. So I think you could get some points here. You have a really bad defense, especially pass defense with the Chargers. Maybe Bears put up some points. I like the over, and I like Tyson Bagent to get you 200 yards or more, over 199.5.
Okay. You don't have any confidence in Bagent the way he does, do you?
That's my boy.
We love to overreact to these.
It's just a good
one-game
story. I think
samples.
that's why a lot of people like
You know what? When it comes to betting, I don't care about good stories. Why should I care
absolutely
about
not.
good
I'm not saying you
stories?
should.
You just implied that.
No,
that I should
just
care about
implied
a
it
good
because
story.
that's what people like out there when they're watching this game. That's what's going to be pushed on us. But yes, I'm not saying you have to care about
Just
it.
like these
in terms of
revenge
betting.
games. You know. I'm sorry. I'm going
Go ahead. You want to take the one
game
shot? You want to go off here?
But you know what the most ridiculous revenge game that I heard was
What? Say it, coward.
C.J. Stroud against the Panthers because
they didn't draft him
him
number
number one.
Oh, I'm riding that narrative all day
That
today.
is the stupidest one that I've heard yet.
You're not a narrative streak guy.
That's not.
Oh my God!
Well,
That's just ridiculous.
there's narratives in terms of props and stuff and sides for sure. I don't know if C.J. Stroud going against the Panthers is the worst one I've heard. There are guys that say that they get up for games for teams that didn't draft them. So is it one that I'm backing? Is it a reason that I'm going to back Houston? No, I'm actually backing the Panthers team.
Okay.
But I've heard much worse narratives than that one. There could certainly be something to it.
Okay.
But you can. I'm sorry. I'm hijacking.
That's fine.
this
We
thing.
got time. We have 6.5
Was there
minutes.
ever a point where Stroud was favored to go number one? Like I didn't think
Yes.
so.
Yeah, there was.
Like minus
Very early
300.
though. Very early though, right?
It
And
flipped,
Frank Reich already came out and essentially told reporters that he
wanted
and Josh
Stroud.
McCown wanted Stroud, and ownership said you're taking Young.
And then he was
Stroud thought he was going to be the pick for a period of time.
And then he was like, my Monday meetings with the owner every week isn't.
Not
they're
the
not
favorite
fun.
part of my week.
Yeah, he's like, I basically hate talking to my owner because we drafted the quarterback.
I'll
I did not want to
disagree with
draft.
Steve here. There's something here. There are some narratives that don't matter. This is one of them.
Okay. Vegas and Detroit tomorrow night, Monday night. Good news is we will have Game 3 of the World Series tomorrow night, so you don't have to
Yes.
watch this. But in terms of narrative street, I have sources now in Vegas telling me that
Oh,
Jimmy
my
G
God.
is fired up and pissed off because you have crapped on him week in and week out on this show. So maybe you target some overs for Jimmy G tomorrow night.
Yeah, over interceptions. We can
There you
target that
go.
one.
That's what I'm saying.
There we go. But I do like Michael Mayer to go over 21.5 receiving yards. Put up a
Burned me on this last week.
He did burn us last week on that, but going up against a Lions team that's allowed the third most receiving yards to the tight end position, he does have Jimmy G back. He doesn't have Brian Hoyer going from one crap to another piece of crap. But 62 receiving yards per game
Best
allowed.
analysis yet on the show.
Thank you very much. 62 receiving yards per game to the tight end position allowed by the Lions at this point. Only had 2 receptions, 13 yards with Brian Hoyer last week. If Jimmy G does actually one thing well, is he's been getting Mayer involved in the passing game.
It's like they just realized that they had this incredible talent
It's
at tight end.
It's kind of wild. For a team that used to go to their tight end position so much to begin with,
Yeah,
when
with Darren
Darren Waller
Waller
was there, they're not doing that with Mayer, but now it looks like they're shifting that. They should be playing from behind, 8-point underdogs in this one here, so give me that. Jimmy G is still the worst quarterback in the league.
Okay, I believe you when you say that. Jules, Raiders 1-3 ATS on the road this season, and we know the Lions are in this rebound spot after getting their doors blown off by Baltimore last week.
Yeah, spot screams Detroit. I don't want to lay over a touchdown with Detroit, so it's a teaser leg. There's a lot of teaser options this week. And if you're teasing the primetime games, I don't see how you're not going Chargers. So this should be a spot that the Lions weren't scoring last week against Baltimore. This is a very cushy defense at home to get some points. So maybe you look at a team total if you want to go for a prop on Detroit. I don't mind that route, but yeah, this is Detroit in some shape or form.
What do you think here?
I'll go over
Raiders.
in this one too. I would say I do
thought
lean.
this was- I
I
totally
lean,
thought
I
this was
lean
the
Raiders.
Raiders.
I lean Raiders +8. Again, this is 88% of bets at home on Detroit. I know Campbell covers a ton of numbers. That scares you a bit, but again, hasn't really moved that much with Jimmy G. It looking like he's going to play. But this one took a lot of money to the over, guys. It opened. I think some shops were as low as like 44 or 44 up to 46, and a pretty good bet split. We were talking about bet splits earlier. 37% bets. Nearly 70% of the money is on this over. I think you get points between the Raiders and the Lions.
You know why?
Why?
All those pick sixes he's going to throw.
Hey, if you got the over, who cares? That's fine.
That's why.
All right, no sweat bet time as we have under 3 minutes to go here in our show. Jules, where are you taking us?
So my favorite NFL play of the day is going to be the Panthers team total at even money over 20.5.
Okay.
However, it's a no
Uh-oh.
sweat bet and it's Sunday. Nobody said it has to be the NFL. Golden State Warriors, I'm going to lay 4.5 with them at the Houston Rockets. Steph Curry may or may not play in this game. I don't care. Draymond Green is going to make his debut. Was that your bet, Josh?
No.
I was going to say, there's
I wasn't
way.
prepared for basketball. That's all.
No.
You don't have to react to it, but I don't
He's
care- I don't
reacting.
care if
He's
Curry-
laughing at you.
I don't care if Curry plays. That's fine. We all laugh at you.
That's true.
I don't
and
care
that's
if Curry
fine.
plays. Draymond's going to make his season debut. You have a guy like Chris Paul now to just plug and play for a Steph Curry. And this Houston Rockets team, they're not good. I know they got Fred VanVleet. They got Dylan Brooks. Those aren't the type of vets that are going to get this young core over the hump. There's a reason that they're 0-2, both straight up and against the spread. We're laying too few with the Warriors here, even if Curry, I hope he plays. This number will move a lot if he plays, but if he doesn't, I'm fine with it.
Nice NBA bet to throw into our pregame power up, leading you up to NFL kickoff at 1 o'clock.
Are we not here to talk about sports?
We are, and
Great.
NBA is a sport.
All right,
it's
let these
basketball.
guys give their bets.
All right, Calvin Ridley, I talked about this earlier, going
Love
over
this.
49.5 receiving yards.
Love
Just
this.
absolute smash spot for
Yes,
Calvin
it is.
Ridley in the matchups and coverage going against Levi Wallace and Patrick Peterson. Mentioned it earlier, Steelers have allowed 4 separate wide receivers to go over 100 receiving yards in a game so far this season, make it number 5 with Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, Jamal Agnew caught all of Calvin Ridley's balls last week. Your thoughts?
I'm going Patriots. This is my favorite
this guy-
play of the day. Let's
this
go
guy
New
is
England.
so ridiculous.
Patriots.
Buddy, he's
The
walking.
points.
He's
This is
about to walk
absolutely-
off set.
I
Please.
cannot wait to watch this game.
No, this
just
is
because
ridiculous.
bragging.
Week late to the
It doesn't matter
party.
about
No.
money. This is
Week
just
late
bragging
to the
rights on the
party.
line. Line keeps moving to the Patriots, guys.
Oh,
Open,
God.
getting as high as
Should've
12 and a
given
half,
him
got
last
down to
week.
10. We walked into this studio this morning. It was 9, 8.5. What's it now? It's at 8. Game day movement tells me when the limits are raised, big bets come in. They're hitting the Patriots here. Second matchup in the division. They're only getting 40% of bets, divisional dog angle. I think the Patriots keep this thing close, and I'll take the points.
Keep it close. Yeah, keep it close when they're
This is
losing by
great.
14.
I am going to.
You're out of your mind.
I'm going at 4 o'clock, 4:15 when this thing's over. I'm firing up the group chat.
Let's
Go ahead.
Do it. I'm
I'm
down.
firing up the group chat. All right, that's a show. We'll see everybody next weekend. The Lombardi line is up next, part of our pre-game power-up here on DraftKings Network and VSiN. Thanks for watching.
Stay tuned for more DraftKings Network Sunday pregame power-up.